Hi. In this section, we're going to talk about preparation for the retreat. And you'll be interested in these details, and if you take note of them, it will help you to run a similar retreat, maybe for your church members or if you're a teacher, for your school students. First of all, you will need time, about 6 to 8 hours, and as a result of the time of the retreat, you will have less reading to do as part of your assignments this week. You will need space, a place of peace and tranquility, away from the computers and phones and iPods and whatever else might distract you. It's interesting that when Jesus took his disciples to the mountain for a retreat, he took them to a mountain. I wonder, as you think about it, why Jesus might have been interested in taking them to a mountain. And this could be a short discussion that you would like to have with your small group when you meet for the retreat at the beginning. Why a mountain? He could have had it near the synagogue or perhaps near the temple. Why a mountain? First of all, it probably was more peaceful and tranquil for him and for the whole group. But as well as that, you imagine when you get to a higher level, it seems like the things that worry you and trouble you seem smaller in comparison. You can imagine that once they got onto the mountain and overlooked Jerusalem, the market and the bleating sheep and all the quarrelling amongst the businessmen would have been quite small, would have been insignificant because they were so far away. They wouldn't have been able to hear it. They would have maybe just seen the buildings as something very tiny. So often our problems and difficulties can seem much smaller when we're at a more distant perspective. But you might like to think of some other reasons why Jesus chose a mountainside often to take his disciples in retreat. It's good to rest early the night before so you are fresh and ready for God's company for the day. I want to tell you that God is looking forward to spending this time with you. Usually when I conduct this retreat, and I must admit this is the first time I've conducted an online one, usually I have a group of people there, so it'll be interesting to see how the dynamics work. But I tell the students to have a good rest, and God has been anxiously looking forward to this. And most of the students will say at the end of the retreat, wow, the time went quickly. When I saw 6 or 8 hours, I thought, how am I ever going to spend that time just with a Bible and just talking to God? You know, it just sort of seemed overwhelming, too much. But you may be surprised at the end. On the day, you will need a notebook, one that you will continue to use for your scripture journaling each day for the rest of the duration of the course. You will need a pen for writing, a Bible, water to drink, plenty of that, and the 3 retreat handouts. They will be, you can download them from your learning activity page. When I do it for in my groups, I usually choose 3 different colors of paper on which to put each of the handouts. And that makes it easy for them not to get mixed up and to make sure that they get them in the right order. This retreat is called God's Hand in My History. And part 1 is looking at the past. And there is one scriptural passage from Isaiah 49, 1-7. And as you read that passage and look at the questions, you will have opportunity to think about your own life and the way that God has been involved in your life. The second passage is looking at the present, pondering the present. And the passage is Psalm 139. And the last one, facing the future, a passage from Isaiah 55. So it will be important for you to download and print these questions out for yourself before you go on the retreat. I wouldn't like to think that you are stuck behind a computer for the retreat, but that you would find a nice place, perhaps out of doors if it's good weather, for you to enjoy the refreshment that comes from being out of doors. And as well as that, I have included a retreat program. This is just a suggested guide, but once again, it will be valuable for you when you're planning your own retreat for your own church members. Obviously, you will need to adapt the times to suit your particular situation, but the retreat program is there, and also a handout, small rules for small groups, which you will read together when you start the retreat. I hope you've been able to assemble a small group of no more than 4 people that you can share this retreat with. In that case, you will need to have 4 copies of each of the retreat handouts so that they each can have their own copy. It could be just your spouse, or your spouse and children if the children are used to reading scripture for themselves. There could be some mature 9 or 10-year-olds who could cope quite well with this. Teenagers perhaps. It depends what your situation is. If you're a church pastor and you wanted to try out this retreat with maybe a group of your elders or some of your church officers, that would work too. But I would like to suggest that the groups be no more than 4 in each group. And usually when I'm running retreats, especially face-to-face retreats, we usually say for the groups to be same sex. Because often the discussion that involves is more comfortable with fellows and ladies with ladies. If you're not able to find anyone to do this retreat with, then you may wish to team up with one of your class members if you can organise to chat at the same time for the group discussion, because the way the retreat works, you will have about 45 minutes by yourself with this scripture and the questions to look at a passage, to reflect, to pray about, and then to write some of your reflections. Then the next 45 minutes to an hour is to be in the small group where you share things that you are comfortable with, things that God has told to you, things that you have been impressed about as you've read the scriptures. Nobody in a group is required to speak more than they are comfortable with, so you may not want to share everything that you found as you read the scriptures, but you will be surprised at how encouraging it is to hear some of the insights that your other group members have found. Please let me know if you are planning the option of using 1 or 2 or 3 of your classmates as your small group for this, so that we can organise the technical support for you ahead of time. You'll notice there's a scheduled lunch break in the program. Some may prefer to fast from food and continue the retreat finishing a little earlier. That's up to you. I do not require that. In fact, the face-to-face retreats that we have had in the past, I have actually provided a meal for the students, and it's been a fellowship meal together. But whatever is comfortable for you and appropriate, you choose. The program is provided as a guide, and as I said, will help you as you plan for a future retreat like this for somebody else in your parish. Thank you. That's the end of the preparation time, and the next section will be the actual beginning of the retreat, so you can watch that part when you're actually ready to start.